Aggression is not an emotion.
Hello and welcome to the Feminine as Fuck podcast. I'm your host, Monica Yates, a period and ICF certified women's life coach, and I help women to harness the power of their period and connect to their feminine flow. In these episodes, we will be talking about all things periods, hormones, confidence, health, food, money, sex, business, feminine flow, your brain, energy, and all the stuff that goes through our heads. You will walk away from each episode with new chicken nuggets and truth bombs, as I don't have a filter and I love talking about all the shit that people are thinking but too afraid to say.
Okay, so the first thing I just want to say is that in America, you guys don't really use electric kettles that much, whereas in Australia, we use electric kettles. And you know when like you're boiling the kettle on the stove and then it starts to whistle? Like, it is very stressful to have to run to the kettle because it gets so loud. And I'm like, getting a cup of tea is meant to be a relaxing experience. And I really just feel like that is not a relaxing experience. So that's my first thing to say. Let's get into it. Okay, so, and I'm sure many of you can agree. And if you don't, well, you should. Now, before we even jump in, if you haven't already checked out, today we're talking about anger, which I'm really excited about because I love talking about anger, because anger is something I work with my clients so much on, because I feel like it is something that is not talked about enough. Everything's all like love and light, like that crap. And I'm like, no, I mean, that's obviously important. It's not crap, but sometimes I really feel like it's bullshit. I feel like underneath some of those people that are all like love and light, they are like, I mean, what does it even mean, that phrase? But there's like a lot of anger and it's a cover up and they're not being real. If you ever find that you find those people frustrating that don't seem real, it's often, not always, but often a very good facade they're putting on, because generally a very real person is also in touch with their emotions. So when you're in touch with your emotions, you allow yourself to feel frustration and anger and jealousy and rage in a very healthy way, which we're going to talk about today because I love talking about these things. But before we even jump into that, I wanted to just quickly give you guys a reminder about the New York City Immersion. This is the fastest way to get results. You get the results in 3 days as opposed to a longer period of time. It's out of control. It's insane. It's for the person. If you find that like you struggle to like do the work by yourself, like if I gave you, for example, an anger release exercise, if you would struggle to do that in your own time, then New York's going to be better for you because it forces you to do it. I mean, I'm there with you in person, like making you fucking release your shit. And then I've also got BABA, which is my Badass Bitches Academy. And that is for women that are in business and they are wanting to learn and embody a very feminine way of doing business. So it's for the woman that wants to like step up as a successful business owner. You don't really know what to do next in your business. You may feel a little bit stuck. You feel like you're pushing a lot, but not getting anywhere. This is really good if you have a business and you also know that you have stuff that you need to work on. So like you've got shit that you need to work on. You've got those emotional blocks. And I talk about this, I think, in around episode 5. The episode's called Are You Blocked and Stuck? If that relates to you, then, and you got a business, then BABA's better because you get everything. You get the business side of things and you get all of the energy stuff. Because the bottom line is if you are running a business and you haven't done the work on yourself, you are not running the most successful business because your blocks are actually stopping you from being fully in alignment. So the way that I structure BABA is that we make sure that you are fully in alignment, you've cleared all of your shit, and then we get into the business, because running a business becomes so easy and so in flow when you've cleared all of your crap. Okay. If you're a man listening to this, I love you. I love my men. If you're a man listening to this, or if you know somebody in your life that is a man that wants to do some work around this stuff, I'm taking on one-on-one male clients, and obviously limited spaces. So the space might be full by the time this is out, but that is also an option for you in terms of working with moi. Okay, let's talk about anger. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that anger is really healthy. Aggression is not healthy. Now, sometimes what I also see especially like with people that they know they have anger, but they won't let themselves express it, is that they are not in control. Like they actually feel like they're going to explode like a champagne bottle. So it's very important that when we're talking about anger and stuff, you don't then just go and release it however you think suits. There's a particular way to do this, okay? Now, a lot of people are full of a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, and this shit builds over time. So what's amazing is that when you get really in touch with your emotions and yourself, is that it's very easy to clear these emotions very quickly. I mean, like last night, for example, I was feeling a lot of things and I was able to phone a friend and I cleared it really fast. It was within like 2 hours, it was gone. And so I'm able to clear things very quickly because I don't suppress them. But for men especially, they suppress shit. Now, I've talked about this in one of my previous episodes about shame, but I'm going to recap and go back and listen to that one because it is a really good episode, is that for a lot of men, they have been raised in an environment where a lot of shame and guilt was pushed into them, and it makes them suppressed and have a lot of anger that they don't even know is there. So for a majority of men in our day and age, and obviously younger men may be a little bit different, and obviously everyone's got their own story, blah, blah, blah. But for the majority of men and women, we've been raised by our mum predominantly, right? Our dad is the breadwinner and he works, and we are predominantly raised by mum. Now, there's no problem in that, but the emotional effect on that in regards to shame and guilt is that mums and girlfriends will generally discipline, for want of a better word, with shame and guilt. For example, why didn't you pick up your plate? Why are you not behaving like your sister? Or with a girlfriend scenario, why do you never clean up the house after me? Or with guilt, it's like, you can ask somebody via, like you're sharing a desire via guilt. Like, for example, you never do, blah. That creates guilt, and therefore you get what you want, because generally then they'll act out of guilt. But the thing is, whilst maybe they've picked up their plate or done the thing that you want them to do, it's been done from a place of guilt, and that creates resentment and anger underneath the surface. And what it does is, over time for men, when you have quote unquote discipline them, which I guess isn't really the right word if you're like talking about your boyfriend or husband, but when you've disciplined your partner or your son via shame and guilt, it actually suppresses them emotionally. But what happens is they suppress their anger, and that's when men's anger turns into aggression. Sometimes this is very obviously shown when a man gets drunk. A lot of men, not a lot, but there's some men out there that are terrible drunks, and all of their anger will come out when they're drunk, or their rage, or their frustration, or their jealousy. And it's very interesting to me. I'm like, wow, you are two different people, but I can see the true person when they're drunk, and that person wants to be expressed. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's that's the version of them that they are suppressing heavily, and it's eating them alive, and they don't even realize it. So if you are a woman listening to this, please stop shaming your man or guilt tripping him to do something. If you want him to clean up the fucking table, just ask him to clean up the table. Don't say, why do you never clean up the table? Just say, can you please clean up the table? Okay. Now, if you are like, I struggle with that, the reason why you struggle with that is because you don't understand value, respect, and the right communication. It is so much better to just ask for what you need, and for them to be like, no, I'm busy, and you'd be like, okay, than to guilt trip somebody and emasculate them. So get clear on your communication, and let's get better at communicating, guys, because it is really important. So, your anger, the sadness, I can see it very clearly in people, and it's fucking heartbreaking for the most part. And in women, firstly, let's talk about women firstly. I want to quickly jump on this. Now, for women, anger is pretty fucking suppressed as well, right? It's like we are allowed to cry, we're allowed to get frustrated and whatnot, but anger would make a woman, quote unquote, crazy. That's kind of what happens. So what often happens is for women that they have this very like tough facade, and they get all this shit done, but anger is written all over their faces. Like you can see it. You can see it in their eyes. And if you look at little kids, when they get frustrated or they have tantrums or they get angry, do you notice how they're very good at expressing it? They really use their whole body. And then once their tantrum's over, it's over. And what happens for us is that we don't let ourselves have those tantrums. Now, obviously, there is a time and a place to have your tantrum, and you don't need to be having a rage fucking blackout whilst you're out in the shopping mall. But when you are at home and there is a safe environment, you absolutely need to be getting your rage and your anger out in a healthy way, which we will talk about. So anger is basically, for women, is a built-up suppression of masculine. So it's a shell for a woman. Generally, it helps us to feel safe because in some way, shape, or form, we didn't feel safe being a little girl. So we create this masculine shell, which often has a lot of anger as well, because we're angry about the fact that we couldn't be safe as we are. For a man, The anger is generally not being enough of a man, quote unquote, and the toxic masculinity that they've grown up with. So like the desire, like for example, boys that go to an all private school, and they're all trying to fight to be the alpha male. That's an example of toxic masculinity. Another example of toxic masculinity is like how many girls can I bang? Those sorts of things are like toxic masculinity, and there's many more examples of it as well. So the father figure was probably not sturdy and strong enough, and they can also and then you've also got this like shame that's fed into them by their mother and in their lives, and that for a man creates a lot of anger. So I'm going to repeat that again. So for a man, the not being enough of a man creates a lot of anger, and the toxic masculinity and like the suppression of emotions because they fester and turn into anger. And then the father figure also generally was probably not sturdy and strong enough. When I say that, it was like he might have been in 1 minute, out the next in terms of like travel, home a little bit, and then he was left on another trip, not giving their son all the attention that he wants, and the presence. And over time, that creates a lot of anger and a lot of like shit towards the masculine. So the son is angry towards their dad, and then they get fed shame and guilt by their mum as well. And it creates this ginormous fucking shit show of emotional suppression, and men are less likely to reach out for help and to do this work and to do coaching, and therefore it shows up in very unhealthy ways. And I mean, it's sad, but it's no surprise that the suicide rates are higher for men than for women. It's pretty fucking obvious, right? They've got all this shit inside of them, and they actually don't know how to express it, and they're in so much pain that the only way they think they can get rid of it without being weak, for example, is to kill themselves. Whereas for a lot of men, like asking for help or admitting something or crying could actually be seen as more terrible than killing themselves, which is so fucking heartbreaking. I actually did a quick Instagram live the other night, which will be on my IGTV, so you guys can check it out. Just talking about how we need to give men a lot more love. I had a little bit of a scenario the other day, and it reminded me, and then I had this long conversation with my uncle, and I was like crying because I was just so... like I just really felt the pain of men, and I want to just like say to all of us women that we need to give men a shit ton more love and stop expecting them to do every fucking thing, but rather actually see them as only human. Now, beneath the anger in a woman, okay, beneath the anger in a woman is all that there is a woman that wants to be taken by a man and wrapped in his arms. Like, how many of you listening just want like a man to just fucking wrap you in this big cozy bear hug? Like, that is the best feeling, am I right? Now, that is like beneath a lot of your anger. So the anger is just a facade. This tough woman, like, I don't need no man, is just a facade. And like, FYI, you don't need a man, but you want a man. So, or a woman, like depending on the sort of relationship that you're in. So the facade that you're carrying for yourself is actually fucking bullshit. And if you're not being honest with yourself about that, you need to be. Like, I used to tell myself that I was just naturally masculine, but actually it was a full fucking facade. I'm not naturally masculine. I naturally want a man to just take all control, whisk me off my feet, and look after me. That's what I want. It doesn't mean that I don't love taking control and running a business and being a girl boss, but at the end of the day, the number one and most important thing to me in my life is love and relationships. And for a man, it's his passion and purpose. And if you are a woman and you are kidding yourself by saying that your job is the most important thing in the world, you haven't sat with yourself long enough to actually feel the heartbreak in your heart of actually wanting to be in a relationship. And generally putting your work as like the medal that you wear for yourself is actually a facade. It's not always the truth of your situation. And obviously everybody's different, and there are women that have a predominantly masculine core, but only 10% of the population. 90% of you have a feminine core. And the example I always like to use to help my clients to pick whether they have a feminine core is to ask them, do you want to just be taken by a man and have his arms wrapped around you? And like every client's been like, yes. And so that's how you know that you have a feminine core. Or if you're in a same-sex relationship as a woman, then you want a woman that's going to look after you and just like wrap her arms around you, and you want to be able to surrender and not be in control, then you know that you have the feminine polarity out of the relationship, and then your partner would have the masculine polarity. Now, beneath the anger for a man is a man that wants to be appreciated and seen as courageous and strong no matter what. I'm going to fucking repeat that one, ladies. Beneath the anger for a man is a man that wants to be appreciated and seen as courageous and strong no matter what. Let that sink in, okay? So beneath the anger for a woman is a woman that wants to be taken by a man, and beneath the anger for a man is a man that wants to be appreciated and seen as strong and courageous. So can we please appreciate men a fuck ton more? Because majority of us are doing a shit job at it. Now, anger is a human emotion, right? It doesn't go away just because we've matured or because we've become more spiritual or fucking whatever you want to call it. That's not how anger goes away. Anger doesn't go away because anger is an emotion. Just like sadness, just like happiness, anger is an emotion. And I want you guys to understand that anger and aggression are two very different things. The point here is not to outgrow anger, but to outgrow our dysfunctional ways of using it. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. The point is not to outgrow anger, but to outgrow our dysfunctional ways of using it. So you don't want to stop yourself from feeling anger. You want to stop yourself from expressing your anger the way in which you're expressing it. Now, an example of expressing anger in an unhealthy way for a woman is by shaming your boyfriend or by emasculating him. That is you trying to express anger and doing a shit job at it. So instead, you actually need to process the anger and get rid of the anger, and then anger will still come up in different times, but that scenario of being angry, you need to release that example of why you were angry, and then you need to actually ask for what you need and not emasculate. Like, honestly, guys, if you could actually just say to a man, this is what I need, it's way easier than trying to beat around the bush and emasculate. Like, that doesn't get anybody anywhere. Okay, so this is about knowing our anger and knowing it very well. Knowing our anger. It's to not know your anger is a very dangerous choice. To keep yourself in the dark about your anger is very dangerous because it leads you to be hostile or violent instead of just expressing your anger. Anger is basically, okay, as like a definition kind of thing, anger is an aroused state that is combined of one, a gripping sense of being wrong or incorrect, right? Being wronged or incorrect, and two, a compelling pull to take care of this, right? So you feel that you're wrong or that you've been wronged and you want to fucking take care of it. That's what anger is. But the problem here is not the anger per se, but what we actually do with it. As when we allow it to mutate into various forms of aggression, that is what actually becomes the problem. Thankfully, we can take anger into a very different direction. This is what I love doing with my clients. I love working with anger. Anger is a powerful emotion because for a lot of my clients, when they actually dive into their anger, so many realizations come out of it. Like when I teach my clients and show them how to do an anger release, so we do it in New York, so much shit comes up. They're like, holy fuck, I didn't even know that was there. And that is the magic, because then you know what you need to work on to stop that cycle of anger continuing, okay? So by processing your anger, it's going to alchemize into a bit more compassion. And I see this, I've actually seen this quite a few times in my clients where we've gone from the start of a session where there's so much fucking anger towards a certain person, and by the end of it, they're like, wow, I actually want to really reach out to that person and give them a hug. And that is fucking beautiful. We want to be coexisting with anger, at least at some degree, right? Usually it's going to be in the form of like compassion towards our anger and having an understanding of it. So anger and aggression are not the same fucking thing, right? A big part of the reason why anger gets such a bad press is that it is commonly made synonymous with aggression. But anger and aggression are very, very different, and they differ considerably regardless of the similarities in the surface of the appearance. So if the appearance looks the same, doesn't matter. It's different. The anger and aggression is very different. So sarcasm towards your partner, that's fucking aggression. Joking, but kind of with an underlying like bitchiness, that is aggression. Aggressional attacks in an aggressional, that's not a word. And aggressive, thank you. And aggressive, don't you love when I say thank you, but I'm not actually talking to anybody, I'm like talking to myself, thank you. What was I saying? Aggressive attacks, anger does not attack. Okay, so let me repeat this. Aggression, the energy of aggression attacks somebody or something, okay? Anger does not attack. So you can be expressing anger in an aggressive way and then it would be attacking, but your actual anger in itself does not attack. It feels like anger in you, but it's not attacking anybody. They are two different things. Now, in aggression, we have basically generally been emotionally hardened, whereas anger, which is generally sitting in the heart, is vulnerable to some sort of degree. You could say that aggression is like anger stripped of its heart and core. But when you sit with your anger, like if you can like really, really sit with your anger, what you'll notice is that there's actually a lot of heartfelt emotions in there, okay? So aggression is kind of stripped of its heart and of its care. It's dehumanizing the other person that you're being aggressive to the point of like disrespecting, putting down, or violating him and her when you're aggressive towards somebody. Now, regardless of its passion, aggression is not an emotion, okay? It is something that we do with an emotion, generally anger, and to slip into the pattern of aggression is to strip anger of its heart and like have this expression of a very dehumanizing hardness. It's almost, when you are being aggressive, it's almost not human in a way. You harden yourself because you don't want to feel, this is really good. You harden yourself because you don't want to feel what that anger feels like. It's actually easier to be aggressive than to sit and feel with your anger, because often what will happen is once you start to sit and feel your anger, a lot of shit will come up. Right now, I'm going to actually quickly preface here, because I know that people will ask me this, and I know some of you have in regards to like doing womb work and that sort of stuff. I will never teach you or show you on these podcasts or like tell you how to do these deep processes, because it's super unethical and that's not right of me at all, because, you know, if you're not doing it in the proper way, you can actually bring up so much more trauma than what you are like able to deal with, and that will just end fucking badly. So I'm here to talk about anger, and you can either do work with me or someone else, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you how to do the anger, because like the anger release, because the way that I do it is quite technical, and you don't want to fuck shit up, basically. There is a way to do it. Anyway, so what was I saying? I mean, obviously the obvious thing with anger is when it comes up, to express it not to a person, because that'll be aggression, but like you can scream into a pillow, go running, punch a bag, that sort of stuff, but that's going to be a short-term fix. When I do anger release, it allows all the anger from your past to come up, which is, for me, has been the most healing thing, anger release. Like it really has been. It allowed me, releasing my anger, it was what allowed me to drop into my feminine. Like it was the be all and end all. And for men, releasing anger is what allows them to really drop a little bit more into their emotions. And a lot of men don't give themselves permission. Do you know why? Because they do not want to see what's under the covers. Like that shit's too scary for them. They don't want to see what's under there. So it is much easier for them to avoid it, because men aren't taught or supported in processing emotions, whereas women generally will be. It's like, cry it out, babe, like I'm here for you, we hug, like, do you want to talk about it? But with men, they don't get that generally, which is sad. And if you're a man listening to this, can I encourage you to like be that leader with your group of male friends and just like have a boys' night once a week and just talk a little bit more deeply and stuff? You don't need to have some like fucking woo-woo convos, but just like actually being like, dude, how are you? Like, how is your fucking soul? And at first I might be like, what the fuck, you're weird. And be like, am I though? Like, how's your fucking soul? Because I love to ask people that question of like, how's your soul? And then they'll be like, huh. And I'm like, and I like just pause for a second, and they're like, I'm actually not doing too well right now. And it leads to a really, really like delicious conversation. Okay. So aggression, jumping back to aggression is a choice. It's a result of how we are handling badly our anger. Anger is not the problem. Us letting it mutate into aggression is the problem, or shame or guilt if you're a woman putting your anger into men or emasculation. Now, angry women may be deemed less feminine because of her anger, and this is not the case, right? Don't fall into the trap of thinking, if I'm expressing my anger, then I'm not feminine. No, because a feminine woman is in touch with all of her emotions. Now, this is interesting, right? So an angry woman may be deemed less feminine, but an angry man is actually deemed more masculine, right? Now, this isn't always the case, obviously, but generally, he's more of a man if he gets himself into a punch-up. And he's more of a real man if he gets angry and gets physical. And we have to stop this because that doesn't make you a real man. Being protective, yeah, fuck yeah, that's hot as hell. And that's beautiful and masculine. But also presence is beautiful and masculine. And being able to be like, dude, what you're doing isn't cool, but I'm going to walk away. I mean, that takes strength. Walking away can also take strength because I get it. Like it's in your DNA, men, to sometimes want to punch up. But that's not actually the best way to deal with your anger because it actually just perpetuates the cycle and feeds the problem. So what I want to invite all of you to do that have listened to this, and thank you for listening to this, is I want you to actually, the first step with anger is being really honest with yourself. And if you have said to yourself that you don't have anger, you have a fuck ton of it. So, being really honest with yourself and actually just sitting with like, maybe do I have anger? Like, am I angry towards men? Am I angry towards women? Am I angry towards myself or mum or dad or friends? Because anger is so fucking normal, ladies and men. Like, let's make this shit normal and let's learn to express it in a healthy way and not you get aggressive. So also start to notice when your anger is mutating into aggression and just pull back and be like, whoa, okay, I'm getting a little bit aggressive. And then like take yourself home or do whatever and like fucking scream that anger out in the car or at home or on top of the fucking mountain, but don't scream it at somebody else because that's really not okay. Anyway, I hope this like kind of opened your eyes to some things about anger and aggression. I love talking about anger, and anger is a very important component of my work. I'm not that coach that like does like the airy fairy soft stuff all the time. I mean, I love talking about that shit, but I'm also like hardcore because that's what gets the fucking results. Like being all love and light sometimes doesn't get the results, but actually like getting down to the fucking dirty gives you those results. And hell, it ain't comfortable and it's kind of gross sometimes. But then at the end of the time, you're like, holy fuck, I feel amazing. And you don't need to revisit it a million times over. And that's the key thing here, ladies, like, and men, if you want that inner freedom and inner peace, you gotta do the fucking work because that's the best thing ever. The best feeling in the world, like honestly, is having that inner freedom and inner peace. It is honestly the best feeling ever. And to be able to experience that every day is a gift that you give yourself and that you give everybody else because you are, giving other people your energy, you're around other people, and also you give this gift to your kids and your future kids because it means that you don't pass the trauma down the line, which is really fucking nice of you. Just gonna put it out there. Anyway, reminder, Baba Mastermind 1-on-1 for men and women and my New York event. Any questions, send me a DM as usual. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Oh, and if you haven't left a review, I'd really appreciate it if you left a review. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you got lots of chicken nuggets out of today's episode. I would be really, really grateful if you'd be able to leave me a review and a star rating that you think is appropriate, hopefully 5. And if you could share this podcast so that I can help more women live a life of flow and ease, I would be so fucking grateful. Make sure you tag me in it on Instagram so I can personally thank you because I know so many of my clients have found me literally because their friends have posted about my podcast on their Instagram story. And I just want to help as many women as possible. So by you sharing it, I would be so fucking grateful. And I'm sure your friends would be too. If you do want to welcome me, please do check out my website for all those details. And of course, you can DM me on Instagram with any other questions. If you have any podcast things you want me to talk about, any ideas, any feedback, I am always open to it. And I always love hearing what you guys have to say. So please don't hesitate about that either. I will catch you on the flip side. Have an amazing day or night wherever you are.